Hey everybody, Scott Costa, publisher of TED Magazine. Thanks for joining for another Distributed with TED Magazine podcast. I always say that we have a great one for you. Well, this time I got an email from my guest, Dirk Beveridge, who rejoined us. He was on the podcast about a week ago. We finished that podcast. It turned out great. And he's like, hey, there's more that we can be talking about when it comes to what we've learned about coronavirus, what we've learned about how we should be running operations, what we learned about innovation for the future. So we came back on, and then he sent me this email that showed how much fun he had when he was on the podcast. Another thing I want to let you know is we have a sponsor for this podcast, which we're happy to announce, which is Chris Tech Wire, which is great people. I met with them and their marketing department, had a great conversation. Chris Tech Wire wants to let you know that whether it's tray cable, tracer wire, cathodic protection cable, PV wire, XHHW2, SIS, or MTW, Chris Tech Wire gets their customers the wire they need with the industry best lead times and customer service team that responds within 30 minutes. If you want more information, go to www.christechwire.com. That's KRISTECHWIRE.com for more. Now, enjoy the podcast with Dirk Beveridge. Dirk Beveridge is back with us. We talked a couple of weeks ago and realized at the end of that conversation, we have more talking to do.
Is that a surprise, Scott?
I know. Dirk and I, when we get together, usually the conversation does go for a while. But there is a lot more to talk about, especially, again, in terms of innovation, in terms of moving forward and everything else that we're doing. So I appreciate the fact that, Dirk, you decided you're going to take a few more minutes out of your day, obviously, to talk to us. Thanks so much for joining me again on the Distributed with TED Magazine podcast.
No, thank you, Scott. I love being here with you. And every time we help each other think through things, which I think we're going to do today. So.
Oh, I think so too. We're going to jump right into the sausage, if that's okay. So,
yeah.
You emailed me right before we hit the record button, basically, and said, hey, I really want to talk about how the sausage is made. I'm like, okay, so, show me kind of what you've been going through over the past few months to kind of continue to push us forward, and give us the advice that we need.
Yeah, thanks. So I did. I emailed you and said, hey, what do you think about on our podcast showing how the sausage is made, because we always, hey, I'm the thought leader. We're the consultant, right? We've got the answers. Well, here's the answers,
yeah.
Right? It's just things going through the mind. And so, can I put it up on the screen? And then can we talk about the screen?
So we can talk about, again, sort of how your mind works in terms of putting it all together. So go ahead and share it and put it on.
So I think you can see the screen now.
Yep.
So Scott, I think since you and I have known each other, one of the truisms that has caught yours and my attention is this concept of the tyranny of the urgent, right?
Right. Absolutely. And
I think we all have, we all understand that it is real in all of our businesses, your business, my business, the distributors that we work with. And I remember a conversation you and I had years ago saying, we've got to talk about this and we've got to find a way to stop it, Mm-hmm. And I think with this whole COVID thing and the work we're doing with our boot campers in our How to Strategically Power Ahead boot camp, just some things have been coming together. So this is the way my mind thinks. And when I'm thinking through something. So my thought here is, Scott, and I'd love for you to just even comment on the center circle there, which is the theme and the premise of this thought. And to me, we have an opportunity to go from the tyranny of the urgent to the freedom of the strategic.
Right.
Does that mean anything to you, just as it is there, Scott?
It does. So let's break it down, if that's okay. The tyranny of the urgent. Which we talked about before, which is we're too focused on
the day.
What we feel is urgent right now, and we're not focused on long term.
Exactly. So I don't know why I do this in my mind. I start down there at 7:00. All right.
Yeah.
And so what we all have, and I hear this all the time, in fact, is that we have hundreds of irons in the fire, right? And we're pulled to these real, and they're real. The real issues that have to be solved, right? Mm-hmm. But here's what's going through my mind, and I'd love you and everybody that listens to this, their thoughts. I think this has become accepted, this tyranny of the urgent. We don't have time for long-term thinking. We don't have time for strategy. We don't have time for getting to the root causes of the problem. We don't have time for innovation because the tyranny of the urgent. And while we know it's wrong, at the same time, I think we've come to accept it.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up that exact point. We know what's wrong. Worse than that is, or equally as bad as that is, we know we have a strategy. It's in our head. We're thinking of it. We sort of are, again, as I like to say, we're making stew and we have a bunch of ingredients in a pot. We just have to figure out how to stir it up and make it a great, meal.
Yeah.
We know that it's there, but we keep putting it off and putting it up because we're more worried about what's happening right now. And the result is we don't have a long-term plan.
Yeah, without question.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, over there where I point up to like 9 o'clock, my thinking is we've got to obliterate that. Let's, you and I were talking off camera about mindset. Let's develop the mindset that says we don't accept the tyranny of the urgent. We don't accept it. We have to blow it up and we have to move to the freedom of the strategic. So what do I mean by that? So up there at 11 o'clock, here's where my mind thinks, right? The tyranny of the urgent. 3 premises, all right? When we accept the tyranny of the urgent, what we're really saying to ourselves is that we're the slave of someone else's agenda. Mm-hmm. That I don't have control of my time. I don't have control of my day-to-day.
Right.
Somebody else has a problem. Somebody else has created the fire. It's my job to put it out. So it says to me that we're the slave of someone else's agenda. Number 2, it says to me, at best, we're restoring how things were. What do we do as firefighters? We solve a problem, and at best, we're bringing things to the way they should be, and there's no growth. There's no improvement. There's no innovation. All we've done is we fixed that problem and brought us back to the status quo, if you will.
Exactly. Right.
And then the third thing is, then I'd love your comments on all of them. Third thing to me is that it says to me is that we've not only ceded control of just our day, we've ceded control of our dreams, of our potential to somebody else. Because, Scott, I think as human beings, we all have dreams of something more.
Yeah.
We all want more. We all know inside of us we have more potential than we're achieving right now. And I think when we say that we're accepting, consciously or unconsciously, the tyranny of the urgent, what we're really saying is I've ceded my dreaming to this crisis mentality that we're in. So again, I'm just thinking these through right now, Scott. I'd love your thoughts on all 3 of those.
I'll tell you, I'll work backwards. Number 3, your comment about seeding your dreams really kind of, I think that leaves a mark. That really kind of hits you. That one kind of hits you at your core. We get into this, because we want to live, a happy life. We want to be able to get to that place that we want to be. But, again, the perfect situation is, you wake up every day and you don't really care what day it is because you enjoy whatever it is that you're doing, wherever you're at. And that one really kind of, that one strikes a nerve with me. I think that's a great point about seeding your dream, not just your day, but your dreams and your potential. Yeah. I mean, that one, I see that. And you don't want to be a slave to someone else's agenda. Who wants to? You want to set your own course. When you started out, when you said I'm going to do this, when you were promoted 5 times within a company, and now you've become someone who's an influencer of others, you don't want to give that agenda away, or and so you have to, maintain the course, stay on the map. So I think that really hits home with me. That's a great. I can see how the mind is working on that. I like that a lot.
Cool. And Scott, to that point, one of the things I do, it's just my personality. Mm-hmm. Whenever, probably 90% of the times when we're out seeing people, right, and say, hey Scott, how are you? Most people will say great or good or something. My immediate response is, tell me 3 things that are making you good today.
Yeah.
Or why are you good today? Right. So I don't, and I just, that's the way I am. Right.
Right.
And you know what 90% of the responses are when I say, hey, how are you today? They say good. I say, cool. Tell me why you're good today. Tell me one thing that's making you good today. You know what I hear 90% of the time? I'm alive, aren't I?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is that it? No, there's more inside of you than that, right? And it's been crushed. And we've got, so anyway,
I'll take it a step further, Dirk. And I learned this from a past podcast that I did, actually. I'll run into somebody, same thing. How you doing today? Oh, I'm busy. And here's my response every time. Now that I've learned this from the podcast. Yeah, but is it the good busy?
Yeah, I love it.
Are you in the tyranny of the urgent busy? Are you in the busy where I'm planning for my future and making sure that things are going well? Because if you're the wrong busy, you're not doing it right, pal. And I hate that. That's just the truth.
I love it. I love it. And so that, I think, then leads to what's the opposite of the tyranny of the urgent?
Mm-hmm.
It's the freedom that strategy gives to you, right? And so let me go through the 4 thoughts that are going through my mind.
Keep going.
Right? So the freedom of the strategic, to me, what that means is, number one, it's recognition and acknowledgement that there's something more, that I'm yearning for, that I'm striving for, that I know deep down inside myself and my organization, my team, there's another level. There's something better. There's another deeper drive that we can make towards our purpose, why we're here. Number 2, when we shift from the tyranny of the urgent, the mindset, to the freedom of the strategic, I think it says to me that it gives me control, right? Hey, look, COVID is trying to take control from me.
Mm-hmm.
My competitors are trying to take control from me, right? My suppliers are trying to take control from me, trying to give me their agenda. No, freedom of the strategic says I'm going to take control of what matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to drive with that. The third thing I have there is, you know what? It's not by solving problems where value is created. Value is created by building something that didn't exist. And what that requires is foresight. What that requires is strategy. What that requires is innovation. And you can't do that if you're tapped down by that tyranny of the urgent. And then the fourth thing is, ties into number 3 over there, is I think it's only with this mindset of the freedom to the strategic is when we have the ability to unleash the human spirit. And Scott, at our organization, UnleashWD, our purpose, our stated purpose, is not to be a keynote speaker, not to provide online boot camps, not to provide the best innovation summit throughout distribution. We do all those things. But our stated purpose is to unleash the human spirit, because we want people to dream bigger. We want people to become more strategic, because we think that once we help people move towards their potential, that's when companies can achieve their potential. But it starts with the human being, the individual, the person, and the spirit within us. If we want any chance to move a company forward. And so, what do I got there? You make the decision. You decide what's important and what has meaning and purpose, right? So it's when we have the ability to say what's important to us, what drives us, what's our purpose, and then we develop a strategy around that. Holy cow.
I
believe great things can happen. So those are the 4 things going through my mind there.
Right. So let me tap into one of those really quickly. And that is the building something that didn't exist, which I think is, again, sometimes it's something really simple that your customer's been asking for decades without actually communicating it to you the right way. Or maybe it's something that, hey, this tweak to what we already have never existed before. And so really does it have to be major? It doesn't sound like when you say that, it doesn't have to be like I'm starting a whole new company.
No, you don't have to start a whole new company. Right? Everything starts with that first step, right? But what I do think is, for significant value to be created today, we do have to be thinking of creating something new, something bigger that exists today. You and I have talked about this. As distributors, we're stuck in a world of sameness. All right, so just improving a little bit on what we're already the same as, that's not going to be enough.
Right.
So at least we need that vision to be strategic and think about what could be, right? And then make the incremental steps towards that.
Yeah.
That to me is where the value is created.
I love it. Okay, great. Thanks. Let's
Cool.
keep going. We got to get around this clock. I'm like,
okay. So the urge freedom. So strategy, right? And so what this to me is leading around is what is strategy? Well, there's an in-depth strategy model that we've brought to companies, you know, over the years. But, you know, right now in this COVID time, as we talked in last time we were together, I think if we're going to come out of this stronger, right? If my potential is to come out of this COVID pandemic as an organization stronger than we went into it, I think 3 phases that you've got to go through. You've got to define the new rules. You have to identify new profit opportunities that these rules are going to create. And then number 3, you have to align your team around a commitment to a strategic sequence of moves. And can I just show you that then real quick, Scott?
yeah, let's see those. Yeah.
So here is this success path that we've identified, right? That if we're going to fulfill our potential, strategically move from the tyranny of the urgent to the freedom of the strategic, to come out of this pandemic stronger than we went in, 3 phases. You see them on the left. You've got to define the new rules, identify profit opportunities, and then define the strategic moves. And I'm just going to roll through this super quick, all right? Each one of those phases has 3 steps. Phase 1, define the new rules. Scott, you know, right before this pandemic, I authored an ebook titled Distribution as We Know It is Dead. Here's what to do about it. Well, let's start there, right? The very first square in the bottom left is, you know what? There were some things in our organizations that were broke even before COVID.
Right.
That needed attention, but we didn't get to it because of the tyranny of the urgent.
Right.
So let's start there and let's identify, right, those things that were broken even before COVID. Then number 2, let's go and identify the trends that are accelerating as a result of COVID and are in fact changing the rules of the business. I just saw a quote from the CEO of Microsoft, and his statement was, we've seen, what is the quote? We've seen, oh gosh, Dirk.
You're going to find your quote?
Yeah, and I just wrote it out. It's something like we've seen 10 years, we've seen 2 years of digital transformation in the last 60 days, right? Yeah. It's all accelerating, and they're changing the way business is done. Then step 3 is, let's turn those trends into scenarios. What could potentially play out on the other side here so that we can start looking for the opportunities.
Okay. Yeah.
Now we go up to the middle, and then there's the profit opportunities. Now we've got to identify the profit opportunities. So over on the right, because now we're going to move left, identify what's going to remain the same. Jeff Bezos said it. What he said was, nobody asks. Everybody asks what's going to change over the next 10 years. Nobody asks what's going to remain the same. Yeah. So it's brilliant, because then that's what you can build a strategy around. Let's identify what's going to remain. Do you notice what's in the middle of this entire journey? Everything? The customers.
The customer, yep.
So any plan to come out stronger on the other side, your strategy has to put the customer at the center of that plan. They're changing. We need to understand that pretty in-depth right now. And then over there, let's start thinking about, over on the left, let's start thinking about an investment matrix that says if things are going to change, we're going to have to move investments around. That is dollars, but it's manpower, it's time, it's focus, it's energy. And you're going to have to underinvest in some places and overinvest in other places. Let's think about that. Sure. And then the strategic moves, coming over to the left. The first step of phase 3 is you're going to have a lot of ideas by going through these first 2 phases. And Scott, you're going to have to say no to most of them and say yes to a few of them. So what is your process to filter all those ideas, say no to most of them, yes to a few, to truly commit and power ahead? And then you put together a plan for immediate action. And then the last item, top right-hand corner, is you need a communication plan to align your team around where you're headed as you transition through and on the other side of this pandemic. And so to me, these are some very tangible steps that we can take as we move from the tyranny of the urgent to the freedom of the strategic. But nobody talks about how to do it.
Right.
I think here's a model of how to do it.
So give me, again, and I don't want to
Yeah.
fall back into the tyranny of urgent, but, give me an idea of the length of time in a process like this. Because to me, it seems like the first time through it, like anything else, is going to take a little bit of time. But once you've done it once, it would start to flow. Is that correct or incorrect? What are we looking at?
I think you're right. We learn. Now, here's I think the beauty of what we've put together in working with our clients.
Yeah.
This what you see here on the screen is a journey that we walk teams of leaders through in 21 days.
Yeah.
So we believe, no, not what we believe, we had a beta go through it in June. We know that those who join us for our How to Strategically Power Ahead boot camp, which starts on August 10th, by Labor Day, because we walk you through a step-by-step process. Each one of those steps, each day we drip the content to you and the thinking tools. By Labor Day, you can have your strategy, your plan, the team is completely aligned around, that you're powering ahead to come out stronger on the other side.
Right. And we've talked in the podcast that we did a week or so ago about the time commitment to go through the boot camp, which was really only an hour, maybe 2 hours a day for the 3-week period, correct?
Correct.
And so what do you take me a little bit through those steps, a little bit further, just in terms of what are you going to do one day and what are you going to do the next day and how do I get to
real quick. Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are the heavy day. Let's just say that. So on Tuesday, you see this bottom box, identify how distribution is, we know it is dead. You're going to go into the boot camp and you're going to go to the boot camp and there's going to be a series of 4 videos of me. Guess what? In this shirt, in this office. All right. And I'm going to walk you through what we mean by this statement, distribution as we know it is dead. And there's a series of 3 or 4 videos, 6 to 12 minutes long. That's it. And then at the end, we give you the last video is we actually give you the framework and say, all right, now to take that thinking, here is the thinking you have to go through. Here are the questions you have to ask. Take your pen, write it out. And you actually go through that depth of thinking. And then the 4 others on your leadership team are doing the exact same thing that day.
Right.
So then you guys can come together that night or on Friday to then discuss all of these work that you've gone through to begin putting together your plan.
So the name of the course specifically is How to Strategically Power Ahead in an Unprecedented Uncertainty. Correct. Okay. So my question for that is, obviously, you're doing this because we're in unprecedented uncertainty. I don't know if you heard, but that's the case. So the title makes sense. Way to go, Dirk. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
But there's a beyond this, and we've talked about this a little bit. There's a beyond this to me that says, okay, just because we got past, the third quarter or the rest of the calendar year, there's still let's not lose the mindset. Let's not lose the innovation that we still have. And you wrote something, we talked about this, you wrote something a week or so ago about Best Buy. And so they had a plan that they were going to roll out, a curbside program, and they put a 2-year time frame on it. Think about that. And again, I'm almost hesitant to say this, but if anybody out there is, kind of pro coronavirus, give me a call because we need to have talk. I'll tell you right now, if you're finding something positive in this, give me a shout. But Best Buy rolls out the program in 2 days instead of 2 years. Because it's emboldened companies to say, we need to do stuff. So my question to you is, again, you have the 3-week course and it's going to help in times of uncertainty because it's in the title. But how do we maintain that mindset? We have to stay bold. we needed to be bold in 2014 when the economy was fantastic, and in 2018 when the economy was fantastic.
Yeah.
And so how do we get ourselves to maintain that mindset?
Yeah. So a couple things come to my mind, Scott. One, when we had people going through our boot camp in June, one of the individuals put in this statement. I remember it like it was yesterday. And what he or she typed in was, the question is the pain of the pandemic great enough to change people's behavior for the long term?
Right.
And it's human nature to get comfortable.
Right.
And, that is one of my concerns right now, is that, things are becoming normalized.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not normal like they were.
Right.
But things are becoming normalized.
Mm-hmm.
Business is coming through the door. We figured things out. People are starting to take vacations again and starting to come back.
Right.
So it concerns me, to your point, is that urgency there. And I think that's why. So I think one of the answers to your question, and probably only one part of the answer, it goes back to what we've talked about as I'm thinking about, right? If you don't have a greater purpose, if you don't have a strategy to become something that you're not today, you're going to be lulled into today's normal. Right. And I've said for years, ever since I wrote the book, Innovate, without vision, there is no change, transformation, or innovation.
Right.
If we cannot paint that picture of here's what we are today and here's what we want to become, here's who we actually see us, there's no need to change. There's no urgency to do anything different.
Right.
And so I really do believe it starts with that purpose, that vision of being something greater. Can I use that word?
Yeah.
Greater than we are today.
Exactly.
And that takes leadership, man. It takes leadership.
No doubt.
To believe in something, that something greater is possible.
Mm-hmm. And
then to align and to move this massive ship that we have towards something else, it takes leadership.
And to move those people with you.
That without question.
Without a doubt. Yeah. So
and Scott, can I
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. And then to move people with you. Another thing that's been going through my mind, and just a bunch of notes, I've been attributing this, and I haven't said this to anybody, to you right now, because I don't know.
Breaking it on the podcast. I love it, Dirk. Go ahead, man.
Here's the sausage.
Yeah.
I am attributing in my mind the people who are going through this boot camp with us. I've never served this great country. Never won the cloth of this nation. Never have, man. But I've talked to a lot of people in the military. Mm-hmm. And what they say is, man, once those bullets start and once you get out there, you're not fighting for the country. You're fighting for the people to the left and to the right of you.
Right.
And because, once you're in that foxhole together, man, your commitment to do whatever is needed for the other. Mm-hmm. And I think when you go through a boot camp like this together, you're in the foxhole. And you're going through the work. You're sweating. You're the one staying up at night, going through and doing the deep thinking, because the person next to you is as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you come out of an experience like this together, right, the premise is the momentum is going to be another part of continuing that forward. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%. Do it together. And exactly. So folks are going to want to, they're going to want to do this now. How do folks sign up? How do folks get on board? It's starting in early August. So
yeah.
What do people need to do to get involved?
Yeah. So registration is open until Friday, August 7th, Scott, and we turn it off. Boom. And why? Because literally from that point on, for the next 3 weeks, my entire focus is 100% on this boot camp and serving those individuals. 100% is what we do. So the URL is powerahead.unleashwd.com. powerahead.unleashwd.com. And all the details are there.
And we'll put that on the screen here, obviously. And if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that too? Just if they have other questions before they sign up.
Call Scott and then call me. No. So my email address is dirk@unleashwd.com. Dirk@unleashwd.com.
Right. It's great work. I'm excited to, and we got to follow up. I want to hear from, so here's what I want to do. Your homework, whether you like it or not, you have homework for TED Magazine. Find some of the people who signed up that want to do it. Ask them if they want to follow up with me, because I want to find out what they got out of it after Labor Day. And talk to them on the podcast or do a story online or in the magazine or whatever, what they learned.
Let's do that. And one of the things that are coming through my mind is one of our groups that went through last week. I think we had 2 NAED members go through it.
Oh, great.
And one of them, as soon as it was done, the owner said, "Hey, when's the next one? Because we want the next generation, the 4th generation of family members to go through the course. So they're going to be part of it now. So that would be a great follow-up. And
there we go. Yeah, maybe I can get to the NAD people. Other NAD members are doing it. You should too. And I know you're watching, so get in touch with Dirk. He's over there. And let's do that. That's great. Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Dirk, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for allowing us to work on the sausage making in real time, man. I appreciate it.
It's all about the sausage. It's all about the sausage. Yeah. So thank you, Dirk, for being on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, bye now. Again, a huge thank you to Dirk Beveridge, who said, "Hey, you know what? I need to come back on the podcast." We had an awesome conversation, and I thank him for joining us. And again, if you have any questions about this podcast, if you have questions about other podcasts, if you have questions about TED Magazine, tedmag.com, whatever, 2 ways that you can reach me. 1, email. Send me an email, scosta, SCOSTA @NAAD.org. I'd love to hear from you. The other one is just give me a phone call. I'm in the office. You can give me a call. I'll answer my own phone. Area code 314-812-5311. I'd love to hear from you. And a special shout out again to our sponsor for this podcast, Chris TechWire. Really appreciate the fact that they are sponsoring our podcast these days. They want to let you know that from quoting to shipping, Chris TechWire delivers a rapid quote turnaround while providing best-in-class customer service so that you can deliver for your customers. Offering an array of stock and custom manufactured tracer wire, tray cables, XHHW2, RHW, USE2, SIS, MTW, and more. Chris TechWire is a premier copper wire manufacturer partnering with distributors throughout the U.S. and Canada. Again, check them out at christechwire.com. That's KRISTECHWIRE.com. Until we get a chance to talk again, thanks everybody for watching and listening to Distributed with Ted Magazine.